Back with episode 2 of the Design Build Hunt podcast presented by Whitetail Partners. I've got Mr. Sam Billhorn of Whitetail Partners Wisconsin on the line. Sam, how you doing?
Great, Josh. Good to be here with you again and talk about some good stuff.
Absolutely. We're into hunting season now, both here in Georgia where I am and in Wisconsin where you are. I know your family has found a little bit of success here lately.
Yeah. I got out with my son Jake on opening day for archery, and we were in the blind about an hour before he shot a doe. It was great. It was a great shot, short track, and just an all-around fantastic evening for the two of us. So it was really good.
The best kinds of hunts for kids. Not
right
a long
on.
sit and a very short track job, which is awesome. I remember being a kid and making shots with a bow or a crossbow or something like that, and the tracks don't necessarily go how you want them, and those can be fairly traumatic for a new hunter.
Yeah, and we've been there too. They haven't all come this easy, but we've been fortunate in Jake's short time here, the few years he's been hunting, to have success. It's been great.
Right.
Now
Do you have? That's right. Are there any bucks on your radar for this year?
Yeah, we got a couple. We've had quite a few hunters around us killing some decent bucks the last few years. So 4-year-olds are down a tick from where we typically are, but still some good ones running around. Activity is still pretty low. They're kind of in their core areas, but we're getting ready for the best time coming up here.
Right. What is your focus this time of year? Before we jump into, I guess, the meat and potatoes of today's episode, what's your focus here in the early season? We hear a lot about don't pressure your properties, but if you got a bead on the right buck, maybe get in and make that aggressive move early and then back out again. What's your approach this time of year?
Yeah, so typically I'm not as aggressive. I'm definitely more of that let the land rest type of guy. And if there's a spot you have, go after it. And it depends on where you're at too. If public land, you're going to go in right away and try and make it happen. And if you got other land you have permission on to go bomb into those places, absolutely, you can do that and make those mistakes and so on. But for me, on my core ground that I manage and develop for myself and my family to hunt, we are pretty much hands off. We hunt the edges. We're hunting some more open field areas adjacent to our core property, killing does, getting kids hunting. The youth hunt is a week out here, and that'll be a good time. So all those things we're trying to let the ground rest, and also this year too we have just a incredible, not like I've never seen before, acorn crop. And it's, the deer are very content just being where they're at. So it's kind of situational too. But as soon as that traffic starts to pick up a little bit on the cameras, middle of October, and then, my favorite time is coming into that last 7 to 10 days of October, watching those pre-rut patterns. That's when I look to make my strike.
Right. Everybody wants to still have a tag in their pocket too. When you get into that pre-rut time frame, it would be a sad day if you've got to sit back and just watch the pre-rut and the rut unfold from a distance.
I don't know. If you've already filled your tag and you made it worth doing, I think you'd probably still have a smile on your face. But yeah, I understand. I went through that with the rut a couple of years ago. I shot mine early, very early, like the first day I was out of the pre-rut, and kind of had that lament of not being in the woods at that time. So I understand.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Sam, today we're going to be talking a little bit more about Whitetail Partners, giving folks some context as we build into this podcast. And, we're going to be getting into a lot of topics directly related to habitat management, habitat improvement, deer management on our properties, and what we can do to improve wherever it is that we hunt, whether that's a piece that we own or a permission piece, whatever that looks like for us. But I thought leading into all of this and building out the picture for people, we could cover what sets us apart here with Whitetail Partners. I think we're pretty unique in this space in that we not only have a local approach, but a nationwide approach as well. We've got a bigger picture view. And so we're going to get to that in the next episode. But for today, I thought we could cover maybe some of our core values and what really sets us apart and makes us different from other folks who, are out there doing land management or habitat
Mhm.
improvement.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Okay, so let's kick it off. Where would you say, if I just asked you, Sam, what makes Whitetail Partners different than Joe Blow's deer management down the road?
Sure. Well, it starts with our name. Whitetail Partners, specifically as we started out, is to have a partnership with that landowner. We want to help meet them where they're at, where they, what their goals are, what their resources are, what their situation is, which it ties into the next point of being customized. We aren't out there to take a piece of property and design it how we would hunt it or how we would uh, go out there and make it ours, but rather listening and knowing that owner, their situation, who's hunting, what their goals are. We have a, call it a pre design interview where we go through and really get to know that owner and how they are approaching what they're doing and what they're looking to get out of things, and that is the context for everything we do in design.
Right. One of the questions that I've gotten quite a few times from clients, especially earlier on in the process, is here's what I've got, and then they kind of give this caveat of, and I don't know if you can work with this. And maybe
Hmm.
it's unique goals, maybe it's a property that they think is rather unique. What are some of those things that when you first interact with a potential client, what are some of those things that you are taking into consideration where they may think, this might be a weird thing, not sure if you can work with this,
Hmm.
that they think presents a challenge, but for us, we really see, okay, that's not a challenge, that's an opportunity, and it
Hmm.
informs the design.
Right on. I think a lot of times as someone is on a property, especially if they've been there a long time, they have a bias to maybe it was a stand they shot a buck out of a decade ago, or it was the way they've always done something. So we're in there with a clean slate, a fresh perspective to look at something differently. For example, access. I've always walked down this road to go to these stands. Well, you're walking through a core bedding area, you probably maybe ought to think about a different approach and help them see that. So it is about hearing what they've been doing. You don't want to just ignore that because there may be some pieces that either they want to continue to have. Maybe it's a stand, a blind, whatnot, but then working in new concepts to the design to help them uh, hunt more efficiently, more effectively, and not have some of those problems that they may be causing their property. Because a lot of the difficulties that people have are not necessarily with that challenging property, as you say, but maybe their approach to it. And that's why having a new perspective, a new plan is so beneficial.
Right. And a lot of this really does boil down to not just habitat management, but hunter management,
Right.
managing how we approach our properties, managing our own, um, dare I call it, self-discipline when it comes to hunting certain stands at certain times, or taking a more difficult route around rather than barreling right through the center of a property to get to that stand in what would be the easiest and most effective way for us, on a 30 or 45-minute hunt after
Mhm.
work or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and that's where bringing in that customized approach of how we are going to set things up so that they can do it. I mean, the other part of this too is what is their ability? I mean, physically, can they take the route we might suggest for them? And are they willing to do that, or is that not in their interest for how they want to hunt? So sometimes we need to design, as you say, the design the hunting into it, not just the habitat.
Right, absolutely. So you've alluded to at this point two of our core values. One is the relationship focus, right? We're whitetail
Hmm.
partners. The second is that customized approach. We're going to take into account your ground, how you hunt, what you've always done. We're also going to present new ideas for what maybe you haven't done or some things you haven't tried to this point. Another core value of ours is visionaries. Tell me a little bit about that and how it specifically applies when someone calls you and says, "Hey, I've got this ground. Tell me what to do."
Sure. One of the core skill sets that we all have in doing this is being able to see what can be, not just what currently is. And I think that having that ability to see that vision, but not just see it, but to communicate it and give the steps of how to get there, that's what we mean by visionaries. We are able to see what can be. Every property I've been on, even some, initially you might say, wow, you got some strong strikes against you here, but those are not deal breakers. They're just challenges to work through. And with that challenge comes then that opportunity, as you've said. And that's really what it's all about, is seeing opportunity in it. And sometimes, I'll be honest, those ones that were the biggest challenges sometimes turned into the coolest designs because they really brought on some unique solutions to make those things happen.
Right. And, while it may take a little extra thinking, a little extra legwork, when you look back at the end of the day to a truly customized plan that takes into account some of the challenges that some of those maybe more difficult properties has, you really look back and say, wow, this has turned into something. In a lot of ways, we're kind of like sculptors working with,
Mhm.
a big chunk of marble or something like
Yeah,
that. And
that's a
we've
good
got to see
analogy.
what's there. We've got to see what's underneath all of this and chip away and refine and change. And, one of the things that I think is also true is that what we provide, and we'll get into this just a little bit, uh, we're providing a living document as well.
Hmm.
It's not always a one time we step in, we set the property up, and we walk away from it forever. One, our partnership focus brings us back, and we're working with those landowners, continuing to work with them as much as they would like for us to. But
Hmm.
also, um, coming back a second year, coming back 2 years after the design is done and
Hmm.
implemented, and saying, okay, where can we improve from here? Where can we
Hmm.
go from here? Where can we tweak or change to continue to improve your hunting and maximize what the property has done and how the deer have really adapted to some of the improvements that you've made?
Yeah,
When
that's
it
right.
comes to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you nailed it, and I'll just add and say that as a property evolves, there are tweaks and additions and changes that can be made. Once you get that initial plan roughed in, there's going to be continuing things to make it that much better and redefine that mousetrap.
Right, right. One of the other big questions that we try to answer on the upfront end for the landowners that we work with is the question of, well, what do I get? What do I walk away with? And one of our core values, setting the standard when it comes to not only the service that we provide, but our deliverables as well. Can you go into a little bit of maybe what sets us apart there? Because I
Mhm.
think this is um, maybe not at the forefront of everyone's mind, but something that really sets us apart compared to what you may get going with another firm.
Yeah, right on. This is one that it really is at my heart of what when we started this was to say there's a lot of services out there that will come and give you a basic sketch or some concepts or some ideas or even just simply point to things in the field and really not leave you with that living document and that plan that you can work with and discuss for years to come. The best plan is not one that's made, in a half hour after that initial walkthrough. That walkthrough is all about just for us, we're like sponges, just absorbing information. What we see in the land, what we see in the habitat, what we see from the deer sign, and what we learn from that owner, who they are. Taking all those things, and then we mix in and combine the principles of design, which we've established and refined over the years, to then make that plan. That plan is not something that's just a quick sketch. That is a detailed 3D design in Google Earth. It's as visual as you could imagine, and it demonstrates and shows that plan really in vibrant life. Like we say, visionaries, to be able to see that plan, and then that's editable. It's not something that's static. We look at it as we make an adjustment or we talk about something. Well, we're going to move that corridor over about 30 yards here. It worked out better there. That was a more natural pattern that we found when we went to build it, and all those things throughout the course of time. So that's the plan, and that's something we share. When we deliver it, you know, we'll sit down and record just like we're doing here now. We'll record a presentation to explain that plan, to walk through the details of it, what the habitat's about, how the deer are going to move throughout, what are the what are the hunter routes? When should you hunt this stand or that blind or whatever? And those details is something that in that video format is going to live on forever. The owner can go back and review that. Not to mention then the whatever we're up to now, 60 or 70 pages of site specific and resource documents that we have to help them better understand the language, the details, the habitat improvements. Really, our goal is once we deliver all that stuff to them within a week or two of the visit, is that we are turning them loose that they can go out there and do that work, or we continue that relationship and help them on land management end.
Right, right. And yeah, to give folks just a little bit of a picture, the last property that I was on that I was able to write a plan for, the written plan ended up being somewhere in the 85 page realm with 9 custom videos that went
Mm-hmm.
along with that. Each video anywhere, 10 minutes or so. So quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit of information. You're not at the mercy of your note-taking skills and your memory.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get us out there for a day and then that's the end of it. You have a full plan that comes in afterwards. And for us, really, yes, we are working when we're on site and we're going to be pointing out everything that we can to you. At the same time, our work really begins when we get back in front of the computer at home.
Mm-hmm.
When we're back with our notes, when we're back with our experiences, when we're back with everything the client wanted us to know about him, his property, all of the ways that he hunts and all of that, then we are piecing things back together. The on-site survey is not the last time you hear from us.
Right on. No, the resources too. I come back, I got maybe half a dozen different mapping programs that I'm looking at and soils and all these different things that it's not just a generic statement that I'm going to make by coloring an area green on a drawing that I hand them right after the review. So yeah, absolutely. And then the follow up too. I mean, I don't. I once a client is established, I am available to them. If they want to call me, text me, email me, uh, get together on things, I want to provide that. That is the relationship that we establish because our goal is that we continue to service them. It's not a transaction that occurs at one point in time and it's over with.
Right. And I think for a lot of us, I know this time of year especially, that's the part that I most enjoy about doing what we do is this time of year I'm getting questions texted to me from clients. I'm getting pictures from clients. I'm getting to see the fruit of the labor that has gone into this and to continue to be a resource for them. So our next core value that I just want to touch on and hear maybe your perspective on is that word comprehensive. Right. When we walk away, we're giving you deliverables and an experience that has been comprehensive. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think we just covered it in what we provide. We don't want to just give a perspective on it, a single drawing, a single piece of paper. The comprehensive is complete. We want to have looked at as many details as we can and not leave any stone unturned. I mean, our goal is to be thorough on a property. If you want somebody to do a quick overview and can you a plan, there's people that can do that. But our goal is to be complete. We don't want to have an approach that's missed something, especially if it's specifically to that owner, not something that they're either going to be ready or willing or able to implement.
Yeah, that brings up maybe a follow-up question. If someone's listening and they say, "Well, okay, you send me this plan and I see something on the plan that I think that either doesn't work for me, that doesn't work for the way that I want to hunt. I don't like this particular portion of the plan." What's your response going to be?
That's what the follow up's all about. I mean, that's a very infrequent thing if we've done our work right, that we have listened and explained. And also, then we are, when we deliver that, here's what I heard and here's what I've proposed, and making that connection. Now, as we said before, a drawing is never done. We can have that follow up meeting, have that discussion, make some tweaks. I've done that before for folks. They say, from my perspective, I'd like to see this a little bigger. Yeah, there's no problem. We can work on that and work through that because it's any plan is a living document. A good plan is a living document to make that its best over the course of time.
Right. And the reality is, not only does your property change over time, but your neighbor's properties change over time.
Hmm.
And that can have a significant impact on, what the deer are doing on your property, how they're moving through using your property. So that living document that can be edited and tweaked and continue to make modifications to that document, I think is a huge asset for those who walk away with it because they can edit it themselves as well.
Hmm.
It's not, it's not a plan that we hand over and only we can edit that. That now becomes their property and they can tweak and change however. So that can continue to serve them 5, 10, 15, 20 years on into the future.
And I think what's really important here too, especially for some people, is this is managing an asset. When people buy a property, it is not, maybe it's just for fun or they never intend to sell it or they're not thinking about the financial piece of it too. But it's important to note and to realize that if you're improving your property, just like you improve a home, you're improving a property and you have history and you have documentation and you have these things, you have increased the value so much more than any of this consulting costs has brought upon your property.
Right. And that's the next thing for us to dive into, is that part about value,
Mhm.
right? I mean, sometimes when people think about they've bought a property, maybe they've had a property for a long time and they think, I don't think I can pay someone to come out and tell me how to set this place up for whitetails. That doesn't seem like like maybe a wise use of my money, or maybe I just don't see that's a good use. Maybe I just don't want to incur that expense. But tell me a little bit about the value that comes in on the back end of things, and really we're in a lot of ways can save folks a lot of money if they go into their habitat management with a plan.
There's so many things or statements to make about this. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. We could talk about that. We've covered that into deliverables as far as, what are you buying? Are you buying a thorough professional review, or are you buying whatever it is, a YouTube famous uh, celebrity visit? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you looking for? And I think that's where it starts. But then getting into the work, anybody who's done any sort of work on a property, especially if you're getting into it and you're developing extensive stands and blinds and food plots, and especially getting into other habitat, you're taking agricultural land out of production, you are spending a lot of money. You are spending great deal of money, especially on larger property, to do all these things. And if it's the way you want it to be, and by all means, I mean that it's to each their own of how they want to do it. But to get the experience and the learning curve of somebody who's done dozens or hundreds of these, depending on our consultants, I would say that you're going to fast track yourself for those results, right? You can spend a lifetime learning all these things and know how to do them, or you can hire in some help and really quickly accelerate your path to success, however you define that, whatever your successful hunt is. And as well then is bringing value and adding value to your land.
Right. And one, people don't often go into it thinking, "Hey, I'm going to sell this property one day." But as I'm sure you've seen, folks sell properties a lot more often. They
Mhm.
either decide they're going to upgrade, they're going to find a property closer to home, they're going to find one a little bit bigger because now they've got more kids or more friends who want to hunt with them, etc. Having that plan on the back end when you're marketing your property and saying,
Mm.
"Hey, not only do you get this property, but you've got a plan professionally designed that you get along with this." Boy, that's a tremendous asset. And
Mhm.
how do you replace the cost of 3, 4, 5, 6 years of your own improvements, trying to go at your own, and then you realize that didn't quite work out. I'm not seeing the results that I want. Boy, it sure would be a lot simpler to have someone, in my opinion, come in on the front end
Mhm.
and help you establish that rather than losing that time, to potentially putting things in the wrong place or setting it up in a way that doesn't necessarily help your hunting.
Mhm. Yeah, I want to emphasize what you talked about with people buying and selling land. I think that just like homes, the people buy and sell homes more frequently than they think they might because stages of life change and their needs change and their wants change, and that's okay. I think that's okay to approach it that way. and understanding that that could happen. You're again back to developing that asset. You're managing that, and man, you hand that off to a real estate salesperson to go sell that property, and you're going to be in a really good spot when they go to show it.
Right. Another quick tip for listeners: if you have a piece of property, keep those trail camera pictures. Keep those pictures that you're getting. Keep the pictures of the deer. Keep tabs on what the big deer on your property are doing, because those can go a long way when it comes to the back end of marketing
Mm-hmm.
your piece of ground whenever that
Yep.
time may come.
Quality,
Sam,
quality, quality harvest pictures as well, for sure.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Sam, the last piece we want to touch on here in this session is that piece of legacy. I think when we buy a piece of property, I know for me, when I'm looking at a property and thinking about my children who will inherit this piece, hopefully after I'm gone, or maybe at the conclusion of my hunting career, I want to leave something behind that's meaningful. So,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about that value.
uh, Intergenerational success and continuing that tradition, um, seeing those roots grow deeper for families on properties has to be one of the most rewarding things I have seen, even in the 5 years I've been doing this now, to see uh, fathers with sons, mothers with daughters, whatever that is, as they are bringing them up and having them develop that piece of property, and then, becoming men and women themselves and having their own families and seeing that happen. I mean, some of the most enjoyable and memorable designs I've done have been ones where grandparents said, uh, I want to have success here with my grandkids. And I'm almost
Mm,
emotional talking about it because when you get that picture of them with a grandkid, I mean, that's powerful. That's awesome.
right, absolutely. I was on a property a little over a week ago at this point, and we had the client's 15-year-old son out there. And he's not a hunter. He's not interested in hunting. He has other interests. But through his father purchasing this piece of property, starting to work with Whitetail Partners, us designing a piece or us
Hmm.
designing the property for him and beginning to implement that, this young man has developed a love for the land and a love for doing the work on the land, even though he's not a deer hunter. His younger brothers are deer hunters and love it. He just likes to be out there. He just
Hmm.
enjoys going out, getting his hands dirty, taking care of the wildlife, taking pictures, and for him, it's a whole different experience. But I think passing down that love, it doesn't have to be for hunting, but that love for the land, that love and
Hmm.
appreciation for what goes into these very special pieces of property, these very special investments that we're making, is absolutely huge, and I don't think something that is easily replaced.
Hmm. Yeah, put a camera in that kid's hand, right? There's so many
Yeah.
things that can be found out there. I mean, I see myself even transitioning to that. I'd almost rather pick up a camera than a bow at times, just because there's continuous enjoyment in seeing the what comes out of that.
Right. Absolutely. So, Sam, this is going to wrap up this conversation talking about what sets Whitetail Partners apart. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that we need to leave listeners with?
Josh, I guess what I would say is that there's something for everybody here too. We have such a wide variety of services, and we can get into this in future episodes. But whether it's basic short consults over the phone or Zoom, or whether it's more extensive on the ground, years long relationships with land development, we can help folks from a variety of places wherever they're at. And I don't want someone to feel discouraged that there's not something for them in what we can provide. So don't hesitate to reach out, and on the website too. Even at a free for free, there's so many resources out there to learn what we're doing, and we try to share as much as we can about the work we have going on, because we have so much to share, and benefits we can bring people even if they don't hire us.
Absolutely. So you can find us whitetailpartners.com. You can find us on all the social medias. Just search for Whitetail Partners. So Sam, thanks for the conversation today. I hope you have a good one.
Yeah, likewise. It's been great, Josh. Thank you.